So Graham, we're here in the England dressing room. The frantic 2 weeks of Heineken Cup action we've seen in the last 2 weekends, and improved displays from the English teams last time out, I think, turning around some defeats into wins. Why do you think that happened? What do you think changed?
I actually thought, look at the Leicester games, nothing biased, but just looking at the Leicester games, I thought they played really well in Claremont. Unlucky to concede a try just before half time. Then they got a double yellow card, and that just swung the game. But I thought they did a lot of things really well against Claremont. I was at the game at the weekend with Stuart, watching the Leicester-Claremont game live, and it was a real intense game. Both forward packs going at each other, and two brilliant backlines. But I always felt that Leicester had the lion's share of the possession and were doing more in terms of playing rugby. And I thought they'd always win, even when they went in, I think it was 16-9 down at half time, I always thought Leicester would win. So I think overall their two performances were good in Europe, although they were disappointing with the first. I thought Northampton were unlucky in Cast the week before. Again, a yellow card, a crucial yellow card to Tom Wood, changed their game. But I mean, they had a massive reversal of fortunes when they won handsomely on Sunday. But I think those, aligned with Saracens as well, all our leading teams providing most of our players, they've performed quite well. Disappointing for Bath in Leinster, but they came up against a team, Leinster, a dangerous Leicester team who were very much on form. So looking at all those games, all those English teams with an England hat on, I think there was a lot of big performances out there from some of our leading contenders for the two squads.
Encouraging signs, because we all know Heineken Cup's a step up from the Premiership, so looking at players potentially for the next England squad that comes out on January 11th, seeing them perform at that level against other international players is very important. So encouraging signs. Very
much so. It is. It's virtually test level, your top European game, particularly if you're going up against the top French teams in their backyard. It's a real good test of where guys are. And particularly with Ospreys as well, it's England v Wales. I think Saracens performed really well Friday night against the flagship Welsh team. So seeing them do well, it is important, it's crucial for us in terms of selection, but as crucial for us within the Six Nations.
Do you see any differences between the forward play amongst the teams from other nations? The French overly physical, for example, or their Welsh work the breakdowns particularly good, because I thought first 20 against Scarlets against Munster.
Yeah.
Have you noticed those sorts of things?
Yeah, very much so. Everyone has a slightly different emphasis. There's certain things in Test rugby aligned with top club rugby. There's certain things you've got to be good at in your game. You've got to have a good set piece, good scrum, good line out, good restart, good breakdown. But certainly different countries major on different things. I think of Toulouse, for example, at the weekend. I thought Dussetoir, his work at the breakdown was exceptional in terms of ball stealing. And I think, again, the Leicester and the Northampton games, there's two real good contests there in terms of set piece, scrummaging, proactive scrummaging off the floor, and a line-out kidology and good line-out quality play. I think they're good examples of how it can be done.
And the scrum has taken perhaps a bit of a battering in the last few days in the press. Particularly Saracens Saracens, I think, where there was 11 of the first 12 scrums resulted in a penalty. As a man who knows it well, what's your thoughts on what's going wrong and what needs to be done to change it?
I think with all the scrum at the moment, what we have to understand is globally the scrum is getting better. You know, look back at the World Cup, stat-wise and performance-wise. I think there's less scrums that are getting reset, and there's less scrums on the floor, which is all we want as forwards coaches. We desperately want the ball to be good playable possession from those scrums. I hate seeing collapse scrums and reset scrums. So I think overall we're going in the right direction. There's some real good coaching going on out there. That game, Friday night, was a one-off in my opinion. And I think both teams, especially early on, struggled with a bit of the calling from the French referee, who's calling the cadence of the scrum, the crouch, touch, pause, engage. He's calling it in a different language to what he's normally calling it in. And I think it took him longer to cause it. And I think when both teams got their heads around that, the scrums were better. But what you can't have, still what you can't have as a forwards coach and as players, there's got to be a real onus on the players as well. if you're beaten on the engagement, i.e. if the opposition are quicker into the engagement than you are, or if they have a more powerful engagement, it's your duty as a player to try and stay up. And I think in that game, there's a few occasions where the referee just had enough of players collapsing scrums. And I'd like to see some real zero tolerance there in terms of the refereeing. But my overrider to that is more referees need to know what they're looking at. And certainly what we're doing with the English referees is trying to give them a lot more coaching to make snapshot decisions of what they see so they can instantly work out which prop's taking it down. Now that's not easy.
And then communicate that to the players.
Yeah.
Of paramount importance.
Communicate it to the players, warn them, and if there's serial infringements, there's one guy hitting the deck first, or there's one guy losing his shape, get him off the field. So I think there's zero tolerance needed there, but they have to be very accurate in those zero tolerance decisions.
Let's hope it's an anomaly and when we get back to the Premiership Rugby, it's sorted out. And
I can talk about scrums all day, Steve.
Well, moving on.
What a thought.
Moving on to the Premiership action we've got coming up. It's a busy Christmas period, obviously, as always. What are your plans for watching games? And do you go to them with Stuart? Andy's obviously got to commit to the Saracens. How does the whole sort of system work between the three of you?
Well, simply, Faz has got his day job at Saracens, and he's got his hands full over Christmas. They've got a big game here against Quins, which I'm going to. So Faz will just continue to do his day job, but feed into us his thoughts on selection and how we want to play. In terms of the watching programme, myself and Stuart, we're out a lot, watching a lot of games. We don't always go to the games together, but over Christmas you've got Christmas Eve, there's a massive game, Saints are playing Bath, I'm going to that one. I'm going to the game here, the big game for the Queen's Saracens game, but we're covering all the games. And of course the games we're not going to watch, well, we're downloading them off our computers and watching them there. So there's a lot to be seen because there's some big decisions coming up.
Are you a prolific taker of notes and those kind of things that you share with Stuart, or is it more just sort of verbal communication?
It's more verbal. When I first started coaching, I used to scribble everything down, But I always found I wasn't looking at them enough, so I try and take a lot more in mentally, but have reminders. I always put a few notes down as reminders in terms of players. But there's a lot to take in, and there's certainly lots on my laptop. I think it's going to blow up soon enough because it's glowing red hot at the moment, the amount of rugby that's on there. But it's a busy period for us, and so it should be, because we're entering a very exciting and busy period of the Six Nations, and announcing 2 squads in January. We've got to get it right.
As you say, 2 squads on January 11th. Is there still time for players to get in that squad?
Of course there is.
Is it all decided?
Of course, there's nothing, categorically nothing decided. Because we've only been together as a coaching trio for the last couple of weeks. We spoke tentatively about selection, but there's nothing set in stone in terms of selection. So everything's up for grabs.
And what are you looking for these players to put their hands up? Obviously big performances, big games.
Where do you want to start? We do it position by position. We want players to play the best that they can. I'd like to think that when they come to play for England, they think about just playing their best game, not being shackled by thinking, oh, I'm playing for England, or I better not make a mistake. We want them to come to us, be excited, be confident, and go out there and play as well as they can for the country. So the more they're doing that for the clubs, the better.
And finally, we had the news that Mike Ford and John Wells have left the IFT today. You spent many years coaching with them. What can you say about the time you spent with them and the success you've had with England? 10 of the last 13 games won and first Six Nations for 8 years as a coaching unit.
All that's happened in terms of the fallout from the World Cup, and there's a lot being written, a lot being said about it, but you can't escape from the quality record we have over the last few years. A, in terms of how we played, and B, in terms of our results. 10 out of 13, conceded two tries in the pool games of the World Cup. I think that all those stats is
1 try, I think.
1 try. You're dead right. Sorry, sorry, 40. But there's lots of stats I can throw at you about our attacking play and our defence. We've done quite well. You take away all the big furore and the fallout from the World Cup. And Fordy and Wellesley have been a big part of that. And I'm still a kid in terms of my coaching career, and I've learned so much from those guys, particularly Wellesley, because he's a forwards coach, but Fordy as well, particularly Wellesley. I've learned so much about how to coach, and in terms of technical appreciation of every position. And Wellesley's got an incredible work ethic, an eye for detail and a work ethic, and I've learned so much from them, and I'm very grateful to them, and I'm sure whatever path their career takes them, they'll do really well.